At 19, Eliza May Harper stood in the small white chapel on the edge of Dry Creek with trembling, hands hidden inside lace gloves. The town of Dry Creek was the kind where secrets never stayed buried and choices were often made for you. Her father had arranged the marriage to settle a debt after 2 seasons of failed crops. The groom, Caleb Turner, was known across the county as a stern, quiet rancher with a scar running from his temple down to his jaw. Folks whispered he was cold as winter iron. Eliza had seen him only 3 times before the wedding day. Each time he'd tipped his hat politely but said little. His silence frightened her more than angry words would have. She had dreamed of marrying for love, of laughter and warm glances, not of a bargain sealed with a handshake between men. The chapel was filled with townsfolk hungry for spectacle. Women fanned themselves and leaned toward one another, murmuring. "Poor girl," someone whispered. "She looks like she's headed to a funeral, not a wedding." When the preacher pronounced them husband and wife, Caleb didn't pull her close. He simply nodded once, respectful, almost distant. Eliza felt both relief and confusion. The ride to his ranch was quiet except for the creak of wagon wheels and the distant call of meadowlarks. She kept her eyes fixed on the horizon, bracing herself for what awaited her. She had heard stories of strict husbands, lonely wives, and long days of silent obedience. Caleb's ranch surprised her. It wasn't the rough, neglected land she expected. The fences were sturdy, the barn freshly painted, and rows of sunflowers bordered the path to the house. The home itself stood wide and welcoming with a wraparound porch. Still, fear lingered in her chest. That evening, the entire town gathered outside the ranch house for a wedding supper. Lanterns hung from oak branches, casting golden light over long wooden tables. Eliza sat stiffly beside Caleb, barely touching her food. When the time came for wedding gifts, Caleb stood. The crowd hushed. He walked to the front of the yard and gestured toward a covered wagon parked near the barn. "I reckon it's time my wife sees her wedding gift," he said, his deep voice steady. 2 ranch hands pulled back the canvas cover. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Instead of jewelry or cattle, instead of something flashy or expected, there stood a small wooden building mounted on runners, a schoolhouse. Freshly painted white with blue shutters, its door slightly ajar. Inside were desks, a chalkboard, shelves lined with books. Eliza's breath caught. The townsfolk stared, confused. Caleb cleared his throat. "My wife once told someone she wanted to be a teacher, that she loved books more than anything. Dry Creek ain't had a proper school in years. This here's hers. The land beside the creek is signed over in her name. She can teach, run it, close it, whatever she chooses." Eliza felt the world tilt beneath her feet. That night, after the townsfolk drifted away and the lanterns burned low, Eliza stood alone inside the little schoolhouse. Moonlight streamed through the windows, illuminating rows of empty desks. She ran her fingers across the smooth wood, hardly believing it was real. "You remembered," she whispered when Caleb stepped into the doorway. He removed his hat, holding it against his chest. "I remember most things," he said quietly, "especially when someone speaks about what they love." She turned to him, her fear slowly unraveling. "Why?" she asked. "You didn't have to do this." Caleb leaned against the doorframe. "When your pa came to me about the marriage, I knew you weren't given much say in it. I didn't want a wife who felt trapped." His jaw tightened. "I figured if you had something that was yours, truly yours, you might not feel like a prisoner here." His words settled deep inside her. "I never wanted to frighten you," he continued. "I just don't talk much." "Folks mistake that." Eliza studied him. The scar on his face suddenly seemed less menacing, more like a story waiting to be told. "How did you know about my dream?" she asked. "My sister," he replied softly. "She used to speak of wanting to teach. She passed from fever years ago. When I heard you once helped the neighbor children read, I thought maybe it was meant to be." A long silence stretched between them, but it wasn't heavy anymore. "You put the land in my name," she said carefully. "That means I could leave." Caleb nodded once. "If that's what you decide." The honesty in his voice stunned her more than the gift itself. Days passed, and Eliza began opening the schoolhouse each morning. At first, only 3 children came, then 5. By the second week, the room was full of laughter and chalk dust. Parents who once pitied her now praised her. The town slowly changed, just as she was changing. Caleb never interfered. He rose before dawn to tend cattle, returning each afternoon to repair desks or build shelves when she asked. He never demanded her attention, Instead, he earned it in small, steady ways, fixing a loose shutter before a storm, bringing her wildflowers from the pasture, listening when she spoke about her students. One evening, as sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and rose, Eliza joined him on the porch. "I was wrong about you," she admitted softly. He glanced at her, surprised. "Most are." She smiled faintly. "I feared you." "I know. But you gave me freedom when you could have taken it." Caleb looked out over the fields. "Love ain't about owning," he said. "It's about choosing. Every day." The word love lingered in the air between them. For the first time, Eliza felt that she wasn't bound by duty or debt, but by something growing gently and real. Months later, when the town spoke of the Turners, they no longer whispered about a forced marriage. They spoke of the school by the creek, of children learning their letters, of a husband who shocked them all with kindness,